Hello guys, this is your friend Dark Fox Sage. And we are back with our new fanfic, which is, what if Naruto learns about his secret bloodline and that his parents are alive and they left him? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then subscribe to the channel and like the video. It motivates me to upload more fanfics like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfic. A pair of children were walking side by side down the huge carnival. The blonde child looked backwards to see a small group following them, their bodyguards. Naruto turned back to the silver-haired girl in front of him. They made their way back towards the group of older men, Sarutobi and Yoko. The old men smiled at the two of them. Have fun, you two. Yay, it was a lot of fun. This carnival is so big, exclaimed an excited Ray. Yoko smiled at his granddaughter. That's great to hear. We don't have much time left, how about a few pictures? Okay, Ray said as she grabbed onto Naruto. She sat down in front of the camera, sitting on Yoko's lap, Naruto sitting on Sarutobi's lap. She was still holding the blonde's hand. One of Yoko's guards were taking the picture. Say cheese. Cheese, screamed the excited girl, causing everyone to smile at her happy attitude. The flash went off. Naruto's eyes opened the second the flash went off. He sighed and got up. Outside the wooden house, Naruto charged his chakra. Almost as quickly as it appeared, the in-sized house disappeared under the soil. This time, however, Naruto wasn't panting. I guess it only takes a lot of chakra to make it grow, not to send it back to the soil. Naruto nodded at his four companions. Alright, let's continue. A few hours later, Team 7 has just got off of the ferry that took them over to Wave Country. They could see the unfinished bridge from their position. Be careful, Tazuna, warned the boatman. Tazuna nodded in his direction. The party of 5 took off, towards the unknown. So, what's the deal with this Yato person? Asked Sakura. Tazuna sighed. Smuggling, kidnapping, drug dealing, and that's only a summary of the things he's involved with. He's taxing our people highly. The fact is that unless we finish this bridge, we'll be doomed to poverty forever. That's awful, Sakura sympathized. Though Naruto was smiling, with a seemingly out of it expression, Naruto's mind was going a mile a minute. Is this what normal humans are? They betray, hurt, and capitalize off of each other. They worry about nothing but their own personal gains. Naruto's thoughts were cut off though. Now you know what I had to deal with every day. Everybody's like wah. Wah, wah. Kyuubi destroyed my village. They never stopped to understand that I'm the VICTEM here. An image of a chibi Kyuubi entered Naruto's mind. Naruto growled inwardly. Get the hell out of my mind. The chibi kitsune pouted. Oh fine, you try to give a guy a little company in the human bashing and what does it get you? Fucking gets your head bitten off. Geez, the way you talk, you'd think you didn't want me in your life. I'm not going to dignify that with a response. So anyway, I bet the pink-haired ninja is wearing lacy pink panties, the old man is wearing briefs, the other mental one is wearing tighty whities, and your sensei is wearing a thong. What? Naruto's random outburst made the other four stop to stare at the blonde, who for once lost his smile and had a shocked look on his face. Sakura was the first to break out of her stupor. Is something wrong, Naruto? Naruto shook his head, replacing his shocked expression with an eerie smile, and ignoring the loud laughing in his head. No, nothing's wrong. With that he walked off, leaving the other four to stare at him questioningly. And where the hell did that observation come from? Kyuubi snickered. You can tell a lot about a person by the type of underwear they wear. Like your pink-haired friend, obviously has a pink fetish, the old man has. He was cut off. I really don't give a damn. Wait, how the hell do you figure Kakashi-sensei is wearing a thong? His look, it just screams, Metro. I changed my mind, I really don't care. Naruto's eyes suddenly shifted to the right. He quickly pulled out a kunai. This action signaled Sakura, Sasuke, and Tazuna, but not Kakashi, who was already aware. Get down. Kakashi yelled as a giant sword came flying at the group. Naruto and Sasuke jumped down. Kakashi pushed Tazuna and Sakura to the ground. The sword flew harmlessly above the group, and became engraved into a tree. A shirtless figure, wearing bandages over his mouth, appeared on the large sword. The group jumped up to their feet. The man, who was wearing a slashed mist hayate, spoke, Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja, it's an honor, no wonder the demon brothers failed. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist, an A-class nuke nin, missing nin. If I'm to fight you, he reached up to his headband, the part covering his left eye, and pulled it up, revealing a red eye, with 3 black commas. All need this. The Sharingan, I'm honored. Sharingan, but he shouldn't have that, that's a blood limit that belongs to my clan. Thought a confused Uchiha. Zabuza, sword and all, disappeared and reappeared right on top of a nearby lake. His chakra flared, Ninpo, Kurigakur no Jutsu, ninja art, hidden mist technique. Mist started to gather around the group. The 3 genin, who received a signal from Kakashi, got into a formation around Tazuna. Zabuza's voice started coming out of the forest. He was speaking of all the points where it was possible to kill someone. It had all the genin on edge. Suddenly the new cannon appeared behind the ninja, sword ready to cleave all 3 in half. Kakashi turned around and lunged himself at Zabuza, stabbing his kunai into Zabuza. Suddenly, Zabuza burst into water. Kakashi turned around just in time to see Zabuza appear behind him and cleave him in half. Suddenly Kakashi, just like Zabuza before him, burst into water as well. Kakashi appeared behind Zabuza and held a kunai to Zabuza's throat. You're done. Zabuza grinned, that's what you think. Zabuza burst into water again. He appeared behind Kakashi again and attempted to cleave him. Kakashi jumped back, landing on the water. Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi again. Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. A globe of water surrounded Kakashi. I've got you now. A clone of Zabuza appeared out of the water. The clone started walking towards the genin. Run. He's too much for you. Take Tazuna and go. Kakashi yelled. Sakura shook. Kakashi-sensei, we can't just leave him. Sasuke sneered, if I can't fight this guy, how will I ever be able to face him? Naruto's facial expression didn't falter. We'll never be able to avoid him. After he kills Kakashi, he'll just catch up and kill us. Only shot is to free Kakashi. They're pretty close to the shoreline. Naruto started flowing his chakra into the ground, just like he's done plenty of times before. Zabuza appeared in front of Naruto and punched him in the face. Sasuke and Sakura, with Tazuna, jumped back. Naruto on the other hand was thrown back. When Naruto got back up, he noticed that he wasn't wearing his hayate. You children, call yourselves ninja. You aren't worthy of the title. Mused Zabuza's Mizu Bunshin as it bounced Naruto's hayate up and down, in his right hand. Naruto's reply was the same smile that he gave everyone. He reached into his bag and pulled out a Fuma Shuriken. He looked at Sasuke, tapping his foot on the ground at the same time. Sasuke stared right back at Naruto, who had just unfolded his Fuma. He understood the signal, almost instantly. He reached for his bag, pulling out his own Fuma Shuriken, unfolding it at the same time. Naruto saw Sasuke nod. Shuriken. Projectiles won't work against me. Sasuke and Naruto both smirked, and threw their Fumas. Sasuke, being more skilled with Shuriken, threw his harder and faster. Both Shuriken flew around the water clone, heading straight for the real Zabuza. Sasuke was the first to reach the Nukenin. However, the Shuriken proved useless, as Zabuza quickly grabbed the Fuma, with his free hand. He quickly looked back up to see Naruto's closing in. He quickly jumped over the Uzumaki's Fuma, keeping his hand in the water globe at the same time. I told you, a Shuriken won't work against me, yelled Zabuza. He froze though as he saw that both Sasuke and Naruto were still smirking. His eyes slightly widened as he saw Naruto finishing hand seals. Suddenly a giant root shoots up from the water, smashing against Zabuza's chin. The shurikens were just a distraction. Zabuza stumbles back, releasing his hold on Kakashi's prison, releasing the copy ninja. Kakashi, though relieved, was sending out a huge wave of killer intent at Zabuza, who had regained his balance. He glared at the young kitsune, and threw Sasuke's Fuma at the blonde. The Fuma was however intercepted by Kakashi, and flew harmlessly into the lake. They both glared at each other before doing a set of hand seals. After a long chain they both yelled out, Suiden, Suiryuden no Jutsu. Two giants water dragons appeared out of the lake and crashed into each other, causing huge waves to form on the lake. They both started doing another set of hand seals. Zabuza's eyes widened. He's not just copying me, he's surpassing my speed. Suiden. Daibikufu no Jutsu. Yelled Kakashi before he could complete the seals. A giant torrent of water flew at Zabuza, engulfing him and slamming him into a nearby tree. Zabuza coughed, trying to get the water out of his lungs. He felt Kakashi appear right next to him, placing a kunai against his neck. Can you see into the future? Kakashi smiled. Yes, you're going to die. Suddenly multiple needles flew out of nowhere and pierced Zabuza's neck. Zabuza fell onto the ground, and someone landed right next to him. She was wearing a green battle kimono, and white mask, with a red swirl on it and a symbol, marking him as a mist nin. A hunter nin. Yes, thank you, you were very helpful in the capture of this man, I've been tracking him for a long time now, said the hunter nin, whose voice obviously marked him as a girl. Kakashi nodded, though hesitantly. The hunter nin grabbed Zabuza and disappeared. Kakashi's eyes widened. Wait, with that Kakashi fainted. Kakashi-sensei, yelled the kunoichi as she ran to the fallen Junin. The other three slowly followed. Chakra, exhaustion. Tazuna shook his head sadly. Let's get him to my house. Sakura nodded. Naruto took a second to look around and noticed his Hayate on the ground. Not sensing danger, he went to go pick it up. 2 days later, Kakashi slowly opened his eyes. He found himself in a room, a blue-haired woman staring at him. You're finally awake, noted the woman. Where am I? This is Tazuna's house, replied Sakura from the door. She pointed to the woman. This is Tazuna's daughter, Tsunami. Kakashi nodded. Where are Sasuke and Naruto? Sakura sighed. Sasuke's training, Naruto's meditating. Get them both in here, we're going to begin some real training. Zabuza is still alive. 2 days later, Naruto was currently resting in the middle of the woods. Kakashi had gotten them to try a tree climbing exercise, without using their hands. It was meant to increase their chakra control. Sakura got a hold of the technique right away. Sasuke made a little progress, but not much. Naruto on the other hand hadn't made much progress at all. He had just woken up, having spent the night out in the woods. He had preferred not to go back to Tazuna's house that night, because of a scuffle with Tazuna's grandson, Inari. Flashback. Team 7, Tazuna, Tsunami, and Inari were all sitting down for dinner. When all of a sudden Inari stood up, slamming his hands against the table. Why are you all here? It doesn't matter how much training you do. Geto is unbeatable. He's just going to kill you all, shouted Inari. Geez, you're such a little bitch, mumbled the Uzumaki, causing everyone to look at him. What, Naruto? Yelled Sakura. First off, you have no idea what it means to have a hard life, Naruto mumbled in between bites. But, that's not important. The fact of the matter is you have two choices, fight or live in this hell, for the rest of your life. Your grandfather has chosen to fight, by building the bridge and hiring us to protect him, and instead of encouraging him, and you're wasting our time by spewing crap about how Gedu will kill us. Naruto set down his plate and stood up, smiling eerily at the boy before him, ignoring the shocked looks he was receiving. The fact of the matter is, you're useless. I used to be like you, letting anyone push me around, and not even caring, but I'm different now. I'm no one's bitch now, and unless you want to change yourself, you might as well go to Gedu and ask him to kill you tonight. With that, Naruto left the dining room, going off to train. End flashback. Maybe I shouldn't have been so hard on the kid. Oh well, too late to worry about that now. Naruto shrugged it off. He was still lying on the grass. He heard some faint footsteps and opened his eyes. To his right he saw a girl walking in his direction. Long brown hair, chocolate eyes, wearing a pink kimono. She had a basket in one of her hands. She looked to be a little older than him, though not by much. He shrugged it off, closing his eyes again. Not my concern. Hello, said the girl. Naruto sighed inwardly. Should have guessed that she wouldn't leave me alone. He replied without opening his eyes. The girl shrugged and started picking plants. You'll catch a cold if you sleep out here. Probably. The girl paused to look at him. She was noticeably unnerved by his smile. You're probably worrying your family and friends by staying out here. No friends, no family, Naruto said, partially lying. I'm sorry to hear that. She looked at him for a while longer. Are you a ninja? Can't hide anything from you, can I? The girl glared at him for a second, but her face softened quickly. You must have had a hard life. I'm sorry for that. Not your fault, so don't apologize. The girl sighed. My name's Haku. Naruto. Are you strong, Naruto-san? How do you judge strength? Haku thought about that for a while, before smiling at him. I personally think that your strength is determined by your precious people. I think that if you have a lot of people to protect, that will make you strong. By your philosophy, I'm weak. You don't have any precious people. Naruto didn't answer right away. He thought back to a silver-haired, red-eyed girl, his first friend. He thought about a brown-haired Chunin, with a scare on his face, the first Konoha citizen to not see him as a hero or a demon, but as Naruto. He thought about the aged Hokage, though he would always say that he hated all three of them, especially the Hokage. He never really hated them. Nope, I don't have many worth protecting. The ones I do have, can easily protect themselves. No one, not one person worth protecting. Naruto thought about a pink-haired kunoichi, an onyx-eyed avenger, and a silver-haired pervert. His thought about his family, that he'd never even met before. Nope, not one. He felt a hand on his shoulder, and resisted the urge to grab his kunai and stab it. Out of reaction, of course, he opened his eyes to look up at the girl. I'm so sorry to hear that, Naruto-san. Naruto sighed. Like I said, not your fault, nothing to be sorry about. Haku sighed. She got up, having filled her basket, and made to leave. Those herbs, are those for your precious person, Haku? She paused and turned towards the boy. Yes, I'm hoping they'll heal him up quickly. Goodbye. Goodbye, Naruto-san. I hope you find peace, in this world or the next, she said, whispering that final part to herself. Protecting one's precious people is a source of strength. I wonder, well, in another time, in another world, I may have listened her words. Another hour went by before Naruto decided to get up. When he did, he noticed Sasuke appear right next to him. They both nodded at each other, before going to practice on their own. A few days later, let my mother go. Naruto shot up off of his mattress. He quickly looked around and noted that Sasuke, his roommate, wasn't with him. Let her go, the same voice screamed, obviously Inari. Inari just run away. Came a second voice, Tsunami. Naruto jumped to his feet and ran to the door, grabbing his fighting clothes and gear at the same time. Downstairs. Naruto came downstairs, dressed as he normally would. He didn't see anyone, but noted the front door wide opened. Shit. He muttered under his breath as he ran out the door. Where are Kakashi-sensei and the others? He figured that he had obviously overslept, having spent the last week doing nothing but practicing the tree climbing exercise. He had finally completed it last night, as did Sasuke. They both made it in late. Naruto ran outside of the rather large house. He looked around and noticed that Inari was running towards the docks. Two men, both carrying swords, were dragging along his mother. Inari, let her go now, screamed the young boy as he rushed the two swordsmen, only to be kicked away by one. Get lost, you little punk, muttered the one who kicked him. Inari, run away now. Inari paused, still on the ground, tears in his eyes. And unless you want to change yourself, you might as well go to Gato and ask him to kill you tonight. You must protect what's yours, with both your arms. Inari's eyes widened and narrowed in determination. I won't let you take away my mother too. Ah! He screamed as he rushed both mercenaries, fist raised. They both looked on in amusement as they unsheathed their swords. Tsunami's eyes widened. No. Both men slashed at the boy, cleaving him twice. No blood was spilled though. That's when the boy suddenly turned into a log. They heard something land on the bridge behind them. They turned around just in time to see a few thorned vines heading towards the one on the left. Hayashi Shushuku, muttered the blonde behind the vines. They wrapped themselves around the waist of one of the mercenaries, making him scream as the thorns pierced his skin. Naruto quickly pulled on the vines and slammed the entangled man into the one who was still free, knocking them both into the water. He saw a little blood come up to the surface and quickly mused the idea of it being shark-infested waters, but he quickly got rid of the thought. He turned back to the boy behind him, who was latched onto his mother. Good job, Inari. If it wasn't for you, it would have been a little harder to take those guys out. Inari smiled at the blonde. Naruto turned to walk away. If these guys are here, that means there may be trouble at the bridge. Naruto got to the position where everyone was obviously fighting. He was currently right underneath the bridge, walking on the bottom of it. Thankful that he didn't have to swim, he slowly made his way to peek over the top. He saw Sakura and Tazuna together. He could see a large quantity of mist, guessing that's where Kakashi and Zabuza were. Lastly, he saw Sasuke, looking very much like a pin cushion, surrounded by what looked like multiple mirrors, with the reflection of that Hunter Nin moving through each one. I guess that Hunter Nin was a fake after all. Naruto went back down and took this time to think, Sasuke is having trouble with that Hunter Nin, and who knows where Kakashi is. I doubt I can do much against the Hunter Nin, but, Naruto mused as he started searching through his pouch. On the bridge, the mist had dispersed slightly, letting everyone see Kakashi and Zabuza's fight. They looked to be at about even terms at the moment. Suddenly they heard an explosion. Kakashi turned around to see the source. Zabuza, already facing towards that direction, didn't need to turn. Sakura, Sasuke, Tazuna, and the Hunter Nin paused as well. There was a large amount of smoke right between both fights, Kakashi versus Zabuza, and Sasuke versus the Hunter Nin. When the smoke cleared, Naruto, doing a moronic pose, appeared. Yo! Kakashi growled. Naruto, you should have stayed hidden. He would have been more useful as a distraction. Damn it, I should have taught him better. Naruto's reply was a simple smile before he muttered, Mokuden Haijutsu, Jukai Koden. Suddenly a root broke through the bridge, right next to Zabuza, causing everyone to snap their heads in that direction. Zabuza laughed, obviously expecting it. He slightly moved his head back, causing the root to miss hitting his chin again. His eyes widened though, at what he saw next, an explosive tag. The tag exploded right in front of Zabuza, causing him to go flying back. Kakashi took this moment to take a scroll out of his vest. Zabuza finally regained his balance, landing on the bridge, when two more plants shot out of the ground. These two, however, were both purple and had a mouth of sharp teeth. They latched themselves onto the arms of the man, causing him to howl in pain. He started struggling for a bit. Finally he ripped one of his arms out of one of the plant's mouths, causing large scratches to appear, due to the teeth. That's the second time I've underestimated this punk. He grabbed his sword, which was on his back, and used it to cleave both plants, releasing his other arm. However, that was all the distraction that was required. Kuchiyos. Doden. Suga no Jutsu. Multiple large dogs shot out of the ground, and latched themselves all over Zabuza's body. Kakashi growled, "You're done," as he started doing hand seals. Reikiri, lightning blade. Chakra started crackling into Kakashi's right hand, his left holding his right wrist. He started rushing the nuke nin, planning to impale him with the crackling lightning chakra. The hunter nin's eyes widened, though you couldn't see it through his mask. She exited her mirror and started doing hand seals. Two mirrors started to appear, one next to her and one next to Zabuza. Her eyes widened again as she feels two cuts graze her arms. She turned back around to see that Sasuke had thrown two kunai. I forgot about him. She turned to complete the hand seals when she sees multiple vines wrap themselves around her, the thorns piercing her shoulders and upper chest. Naruto pulls on his right arm and slams her against the ground. This causes her mask to break, and Naruto notices that she's the same girl as before. She tries to struggle, but he restrains her, putting a knee to one hand, the other knee to her back, one hand restraining her other hand, and with his right hand, he puts a kunai to her neck. He slightly loosens the hold on the vines. She raises her head to watch Kakashi about to pierce Zabuza. "Let me go. Let me go," she screams, still struggling and ignoring the kunai at her throat. Naruto was slightly taken back. Does she care about this man that much? I'm sorry, Haku. It was too late though. Zabuza was hit. No. Kakashi lowers his headband, covering his Sharingan, as he dismisses the dogs, letting Zabuza drop. Naruto sighs and gets off of the girl, releasing her from the vines restraining her. She jumps to her feet and rushes over to Zabuza. She kneels by the bloody man, who now has a fist-sized hole in his chest. "Zabuza-sama, you failed me, my weapon, you've rusted." Haku's eyes widened at the words of the man who she considered a father, Zabuza-sama. "Just like a human," muttered Naruto as he walked by both Zabuza and Haku. Haku glared at him, but it was Zabuza who responded, "What? Demon of the hidden mist, ah. You're nothing but a human, using others how you please until they're no longer useful to you. Never mind the fact that she would do anything you said, or that she almost gave her life for yours. You simply live on the fact that she failed you. You're nothing but a simple weak human." Zabuza. With that, Naruto walked off. "You're wrong," muttered Haku. Zabuza's eyes had widened though. He thought back to the time when he first took Haku in, when he trained her, all the times they spent together. It made tears well up in his eyes. He lay there thinking for so long, that he hadn't even noticed that Gato arrived a minute ago, with a horde of mercenaries. "Now that you all are worn out, I can easily finish you off," laughed the old man. Kakashi and Naruto got into a combat stance. Sasuke was ready as well, though still hurt from the needles. Sakura, dutifully, stood right in front of Tazuna. Haku growled, "You." She was cut off though as she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Haku, I'm sorry, and thank you for everything," muttered the demon of the hidden mist. He started chewing on the bandages that were covering his mouth, until they fell, revealing the bottom of his face. He looked at Naruto, with a look of respect. "Hey kid, give me that kunai knife." Naruto nodded as he tossed the kunai he was holding into the air. Zabuza caught it in his mouth and rushed at the group. Gato, scared shitless, ran behind his mercenary. Zabuza rushed into the crowd, slashing at the mercenary and at the same time being pierced with several spears and swords. He finally broke away from the crowd and rushed at Gato, slashing him and stabbing the old man before sending him into the ocean. Zabuza fell to his knees and then fell completely. Zabuza! Screamed in upset Haku. The remaining mercenaries sneered at the group. Whatever, we'll pillage the town and Getu's storages. That's when an arrow embedded itself onto the ground right next to the one who spoke. Everyone turned to see Inari, holding a crossbow, and an angry mob of villagers rushing towards the fighters. The mercenaries freaked out and ran away, now being outclassed and outmatched. Haku, still suffering from her own wounds, managed to limp towards Zabuza's body. She kneeled and started crying on his chest. Otusan, Team 7, and Haku were currently crossing the new bridge that connected Wave Country to Fire Country. It had been about 2 weeks since the battle on the Great Bridge. However, without Getu or his men around, guarding the bridge and bridge builders had been a one-person job, Team 7 each taking a turn. Naruto had spent the remainder of the time training his Mokuden Abelites. Recently he had been able to create 5 trees at a time. The problem was that this ability sapped too much of his chakra. For someone like Naruto, who had an abundance of chakra, it was quite a feat to sap him of nearly half of his chakra, not including Kyuubi's store of course. Kakashi used most of his free time with Sasuke. He needed to teach the boy how to control his Sharingan, having unlocked it during the fight with Haku. Sakura trained every now and then, but mostly spent time with Haku. Haku, however, went into a deep form of depression. For a whole week she stayed in her room, the one Tsunami had allowed her to use. She barely ate or drank a thing. Sakura went to her side often to try to cheer the girl up. Even Kakashi came and offered the girl a few kind words. He felt horrible, being the one who killed the Miss Nin, or at least the one who gave him the fatal wound. Sasuke, knowing what it's like to have the ones you care about killed before your eyes, wanted to offer the girl his condolences, but he really didn't know what to say to her, so he decided to just leave her be. Naruto, knowing what it's like to be alone for most of his life, also felt like consoling her, but like Sasuke, he wasn't skilled in doing so, so he opted to leave her alone as well, though he did feel responsible for her heartache. After about a week, she finally decided to come back outside, though she spent the next 4 days outside in the forest. On the 4th day she finally had a long talk with Sakura. The two girls talked about multiple things, and for that one day, Sakura managed to get Haku's mind off of Zabuza. The remainder of the few days Haku spent at Chizuna's house, spending her time downstairs, mostly with either Tsunami or Sakura. On the day before the Leaf Nins were meant to go back to Konoha, Haku asked Kakashi if she could go with them. Kakashi agreed to the girl's request. And so they left together. A week later, Konoha. Team 7 was currently standing on the bridge, where they usually wait for their sensei. Sakura, after having asked Sasuke on a date for the 10th time that week, was simply sitting on the railing, and looking out towards the village. Sasuke, after declining Sakura's request, opted to lean against the railing, brooding about how he would kill his brother. Naruto was also leaning against the railing, but unlike Sasuke, he wasn't brooding. Naruto had woken up early to continue his testing on some plants. He had learned, on the trip back to Konoha, that he could manipulate some plants that were growing around him. He couldn't do too much work with them while the group was traveling. He woke up early though, to start experimenting on other plants. Most of them had interesting results, though he didn't care too much about the results of the rose. It turned into a long whip with multiple thorns. He dispelled the effects when he thought he heard someone yell something about S&M loving fox, or maybe it was just in his head. He thought he heard laughing as well. At the moment Naruto was holding a bamboo flower, having grabbed it right before he left for the bridge. Naruto, holding the bamboo flower between his hands, started doing the necessary hand seals. Unlike the moon leaves, on his wrist, other plants weren't so sensitive to chakra, and as such couldn't change as quickly. Last time Naruto attempted to change a plant, without using hand seals, it had taken him close to half an hour of constantly concentrating chakra to do so. So Kyuubi had helped him develop hand seals which would make the process take only a few seconds. The hand seals were actually just a condensed version of the Mokuden Haijutsu, Jukai Koden hand seals. He finished the hand seals, muttering, Mokuden Haijutsu, Shokubutsu Henkin no Jutsu, would release secret technique, plant transformation technique. The bamboo flower started to grow. The stem grew very long and a point formed at the end of it. The leaves grew out and formed a cross guard. To say Naruto was disappointed, though he didn't show it, would be an understatement. It looks like a damn sword. He began to rub the dull edge. It doesn't even have a sharp edge. He began rubbing the top of it and cut his finger on the point. The point is sharp, but what good is it without an edge? All in all, it looked like a piece of bamboo, with the leaves acting like a useless crossguard. He decided to flip the sword upside down, stabbing the point against the bridge, and started doing hand seals again, this time adding some of Kyuubi's chakra to it, Mokuden Haijutsu, Shokubutsu Henkin no Jutsu. This time the sword changed more drastically. Like all other plants that he changed with Kyuubi's chakra, this plant changed purple. The round blade started to flatten, growing a sharp edge on one side, and curving slightly. The hilt was still round, allowing one to hold it. The leaves of the cross guards changed into long thorns. Naruto smirked. Now that's a sword. Wait. Why am I even thinking about this? He thought, fingering the wakizashi on his belt. I already have a sword, and I have no idea how to use it effectively. Why am I worrying about this? Naruto shrugged and dispelled the jutsu, the bamboo sword changing back into a bamboo plant. He sighed and glanced over at his two teammates. Sakura turned away. She was probably checking out the sword. Sasuke, Sharingan blazing, was glaring daggers at him and growling. Naruto's smile widened. Ever since he unlocked the Sharingan, Sasuke had been trying to copy Naruto's Mokuden techniques, only to fail each time. Yo! Kakashi appeared in a puff of smoke. You're late, yelled an enraged Sakura. Kakashi shrugged. Sorry I'm late, I'm afraid I got, but he was cut off. Lost on the path of life, Naruto finished for him. You were probably also helping a little old lady cross the street. Sasuke added. Her cat was probably being attacked by an S-rank missing nin as well. Muttered Sakura. Kakashi blinked. Yay, something like that. Anyway, here. He pulled out 3 slips of paper. I've decided to enter the 3 of you in the Chunin exams. Naruto and Sasuke's eyes widened. Sakura was a little downhearted. Am I ready for this? Questioned the scared Kunoichi. This'll be a chance to fight ninja from other villages, as well as my own, Sasuke thought with a smirk. Finally, all I have to do is get through this and impress the judges, then I can finally leave, Naruto thought with a smile. The choice to enter is your choice and yours alone. It won't hurt your teammates if you decide not to enter. The information is on the sheets. With that, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. The 3 nins disappeared in a puff of smoke. Somewhere in the village, Naruto was walking down the streets, smiling at the villagers as usual. He noticed something following him though. It was a square rock. Come out, Konohamaru. The square rock stopped moving and exploded, sending smoke everywhere. The smoke cleared to reveal goggle-wearing kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. They were all coughing. When they stopped, they looked up at Naruto. All 3 blinked before going into a weird pose. I'm Moegi, the sassiest kunoichi in preschool. I like algebra. I am Udon, and I am the toughest ninja in the village. My name is Konohamaru. And we are the Konohamaru Ninja Corps. The 3 ninja chorused. Naruto sighed. What do you 3 want? Moegi ran up to Naruto. Boss, you said that you would play ninja with us, she said with tears in her eyes. Naruto sighed. Fine, how about a game of hide and seek? You guys run away and hide, then I'll go find you. Maybe. After ramen. Yay. The youngsters chorused and ran away. They ran around the corner. Naruto shrugged and started walking the opposite direction until he heard something. Ow. Little brat. Hey, let me go. He could hear Konohamaru scream. Naruto turned towards the noise. He then shrugged and turned back around. He'll be fine. I'll teach you a lesson. Naruto froze at that. Damn it. He turned and walked over to where he heard the ruckus. He saw a boy in black holding onto Konohamaru. Mojin Udon cowering a few feet away from them. And a blonde girl with a large fan on her back. The teens were both wearing sand Hitai 8. Okay, I don't really want to deal with any of this, so I'll only say this once. While I agree that the kid you're holding is indeed a brat, he's also the Hokage's grandson, Naruto explained to the black-clothed boy. The boy and the girl's eyes widened. Damn it, Kankuro. I don't want any trouble, so put him down. Kankuro dropped Konohamaru. The boy ran back and hid behind Naruto, as did Moegi and Udon. Good move, cause I'm pretty sure there are a few Anbu constantly watching the brat, probably waiting until you actually hit him. Kankuro sneered at the smiling blonde. And who the hell are you? Naruto shrugged. No one of any importance. Naruto turned and started walking away, the three youngsters in front of him. Kankuro growled. You. Kankuro reached for a bandaged thing on his back. He froze when he felt a rock hit him on the head. Naruto and the kids paused at that point as well. They all turned to see Sasuke, sitting on a tree branch, bouncing a rock on his hand. I wouldn't do that if I were you. He may dress like an idiot, but he's pretty tough, Sasuke smirked. Kankuro glared at Sasuke. Temari stepped in. Enough, Kankuro. Enough, spoke a cold voice from out of nowhere. It seemed to freeze Kankuro and Temari. Sasuke turned his head to see a red-headed boy behind him. I didn't even feel him behind me. The boy disappeared in a swirl of sand and reappeared in front of Kankuro. You're an embarrassment, let's go, now. Konohamaru, who was still cowering behind Naruto, yelled, and just who the hell are you? Gaara turned, ignoring Konohamaru and looking straight at the smiling blonde. Shukaku, why are you reacting to him? My name is Gaara no Subaku, Gaara of the desert. I'm curious about you too. Something odd about this kid. Wonder what it is. Wait, isn't there something I should be remembering? Something about demons in Wind Country. How the hell should I know? I'm not in charge of your memory. Oh well, it probably isn't anything life-threatening. Naruto's smile widened. My name is Naruto, no Hayashi, Naruto of the forest. Sasuke's eyes widened for a moment. Naruto of the forest. That's a new one, though I suppose it is fitting. Gaara stared at Naruto for a moment. That smile, I'll enjoy destroying it. With that, Gaara turned and walked away, Kankuro and Temari behind him. We sure are meeting a bunch of freaks lately, Sasuke mused as he turned to his smiling teammate, but then again, you're not that ordinary yourself. Naruto's apartment. Naruto was walking to his door when he heard something. Hello Naruto-san. Naruto turned to see Haku walk out the door next to his. Naruto nodded to her. Late for work, I'll see you later. Haku ran off in the direction of the hospital. When the group returned to Konoha, Kakashi asked the third if he could place Haku among their ranks. Unfortunately there weren't any openings in the teams, so Haku took a job in the hospital nearby. The third had promised to put her on a Genin team after the Chunin exam. Naruto always becomes a little unnerved by Haku. He assisted in killing her master. Hell, he even stopped her from saving him. But she was always nice to him. He mused with the thoughts that she was just trying to get close enough to him to kill him. He shrugged it off though. Naruto walked inside. The next day, Naruto was standing in the middle of a forest. He was holding Moegi in his arms. Konohamaru and Udon were standing a few feet behind him. There was a giant root in front of him holding a man with a rain hit I ate. Naruto smiled widely. I guess I'll take you the Anbu. The rain nin's eyes widened and in a puff of smoke, Iruka was in the place of the rain nin. You were far too careless, Iruka-sensei. Iruka smiled at the boy. I suppose I did get careless. You were never supposed to catch me, but now that you have, you should know that this was all a test, and you can let me go now. Naruto seemed to think this over for a few seconds. Nah. Iruka's eyes widened. Naruto. You still attacked a citizen of Leaf, he said, indicating Moegi. So, I think I'll take you to Anbu anyway. I hear they have a interesting interrogator. Iruka nearly choked. Is he talking about Ibiki? Iruka started struggling like a wild animal. He finally managed to free both his hands to perform Kawarimi. Iruka was replaced with a log. Naruto shrugged. Moegi pouted. Why did Iruka do this? Naruto shrugged. Some kind of test. Even after I graduate, he's still testing me, sadist. Examination building. Naruto walked up to the building where they would be taking the exam. When he walked in, he was surprised to see Sasuke on the ground. Sakura crouched over him. There was this kid wearing a green eyesore talking to a turtle. He walked over to his teammates. Sorry I'm late, I think Kakashi is rubbing off on me. Sakura and Sasuke looked at him before turning back to the kid and the turtle. Naruto nearly dropped his smile. Forget my earlier thoughts, this kid is an eyesore. I bet he goes commando. Would you drop the underwear subject? The turtle yelled. Get ready because, here comes Guy-sensei. The turtle disappeared in a puff of smoke. The smoke cleared to reveal the man that looks almost exactly like the boy. Lee, the man said as he punched the boy. Never show your best jutsu unless it's an emergency. He looked at the group in front of him. So, you're Kakashi's team, how's he been? Sakura spoke first. You know Kakashi-sensei? Yep. In fact, people say that we are eternal rivals. He's kidding, right? Thought Sasuke. Lee. At this point Naruto decided to tune out their random babbling and started replaying plant effects in his head. Examination room. Naruto was sitting in a desk taking a test. There were sentries all around them to prevent cheating. He glanced to his right to see that weird girl. I think her name is Hinata. He started glancing around the room, careful to avoid eyeing the test papers. Many of the students were glaring at their test papers. Obviously they didn't know how to answer the questions. He looked at one student, a seat in front of him and one seat to the left, who was rushing through the exams. Wait, haven't I seen that guy before? Last time I saw him though, he was wearing a Chunin vest though. Did he get demoted? He looked around. Wait. If we get caught cheating, we'll lose 2 points. Why? Normally when you get caught cheating, we get thrown out right away, unless, the point of this exam is to cheat, but not get caught. He looked at the boy he was staring at before. I need to cheat off of that guy and not get caught, but how? Naruto's thinking was unfortunately being distracted by an idiot in front of him. He was balancing a pencil on his nose. Finally it happened, a kunai came from one of the sentries, splitting the pencil in half. Hey, you're not here to screw around. Either get to work or leave, growled the one and only Ibiki Morino. Naruto's eyes widened, as he looked around the room. Everyone had their eyes glued on Ibiki and the kid. He turned back to the kid who had just finished his exam. That's what I'll do. He pulled 2 coins out of his pocket, putting one in each hand. He started flipping them into the air, waiting. Finally 2 kunai flew out of nowhere, catching each of the coins, sending each to a side of the room. It had the exact effect he wanted. Everyone, including the sentries, turned to see the kunais on their side of the room. Luckily Naruto was at about the center of the room. Now, Hayashi Shushuku. Vines extended from his bracelet, grabbing the corner of the boy's paper, the one who finished his exam. Naruto quickly retracted the vines and brought the boy's paper to his desk, crumpling his own paper and sticking it in his jacket. He quickly erased the boy's name, and wrote his own. He then started looking around. No one noticed what he did. He looked to the front of the room to see the examiner glaring at him. Shit. He saw me. Naruto grimaced inwardly. Ibiki, however, merely smirked at Naruto and looked away. Naruto sighed and started looking around again. He saw one pair of Sharingan eyes looking at him and a pair of Byakugan eyes. The Sharingan eyes belonged to Sasuke, who was smirking at Naruto. The Byakugan eyes belonged to a boy with long brown hair. Hey! Screamed the boy who had only just noticed that his paper was missing. Shut up, maggot. Next time you don't get an exam paper, mention it beforehand. Otherwise I'll throw you out, yelled Ibiki as he slammed a paper on the kid's desk. The sentries were looking at Ibiki with confusion etched on their faces. Naruto shrugged and waited until the final question showed up. He didn't have to wait long. 30 minutes later, they had to choose whether or not to take the final question. If they didn't take the question, they failed the exam. If they did take the question and missed it, they would never be allowed to take the exams again. Naruto shrugged the question off. I've gotten this far already. In the end, it doesn't matter. If I'm never allowed to become a Chunin, then I'll become a missing nin once I become strong enough. Ibiki looked around the moment he saw that no one else was quitting. You all pass. Watch out, Sasuke. Sasuke dodged to the left, jumping from one tree branch to the next, just in time to avoid a flurry of shuriken. He paused for a moment to glare at his opponent, the woman who wore a grass hitai. Sasuke glanced over to where Sakura was hiding and then back towards the grass nin. The woman jumped at Sasuke, and the two started fighting with taijutsu. Damn it, how the hell did we get in this mess? Flashback. Team 7 were standing in the middle of a clearing. They had just chased away a rain nin, whom had snuck into the group using a henge of Naruto. Sasuke growled, "This can't happen again. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a password that only the three of us will know." Naruto and Sakura both nodded. Sasuke-kun, that's a great idea. She was cut off as a large gust of wind hit the three ninjas. The three members of Team 7 were blown into the trees, where they grabbed on for dear life. Naruto was the first to let go, and he was blown away, high into the air. Naruto! Screamed Sakura. A few moments later, Sakura and Sasuke both let go of the trees, each going a different direction. Luckily, at the time that the two remaining members of Team 7 let go, the wind started to die down, so they didn't go too far. Sasuke landed on the ground with a painful thud. After a few moments he jumped to his feet and looked at his surroundings. He was surrounded in forest. He quickly started moving, in search of his lost comrades or for whoever it was that attacked them. Moments later he came upon a clearing where he saw his lost pink-haired teammate. Damn it, we didn't have a chance to come up with a password. She moaned in pain as she started to lift herself off the ground. She looked up and saw Sasuke, holding a kunai. Sasuke-kun. Shut up. I'll only ask this once. The first day we became a team, I discussed with the three of you my ambitions. There were two of them. What were they? Sasuke sneered, clutching his kunai harder. Sakura was a little disturbed. He may think that I'm an enemy. You wanted to rebuild your clan and kill somebody, she said, remembering what Sasuke said, along with every single other detail that she could dig up about him. Sasuke nodded and lowered his kunai. We better go find Naruto. Keep your guard up though. Sasuke paused when he heard something whizzing through the air. He leapt forward, grabbed Sakura, and jumped into the trees, just in time to avoid a flurry of kunai that fell on Sakura's last position. Sasuke and Sakura both jumped back to the ground. Suddenly something came out of the trees and landed right in front of Sasuke and Sakura. It was the woman, a grass nin, who gave back the kunai of the second examiner, using a super long tongue. Sasuke glared at the nin, before launching himself at her. The grass nin dodged Sasuke, and jumped high into the trees. Sasuke followed, as did Sakura. Sasuke looked around for the grass nin. Damn it, where is she? He concentrated chakra to his eyes, Sharingan. He activated his blood limit. The second he did though, he heard Sakura yell. Watch out Sasuke. End flashback. Damn it, where the hell is Naruto when you need him? Somewhere in the forest. Naruto lifted himself off the ground. Must have fainted after I hit the ground. Naruto looked up and nearly choked. In front of him was a giant snake. The snake snapped at Naruto. Naruto, luckily, managed to jump to his feet and avoid the snake's maw. Naruto grabbed some shuriken and launched him at the snake. The snake, easily, took the hits and shook them off. The snake launched his tail at the snake. Unfortunately, Naruto wasn't fast enough to avoid the hit and was slammed into a tree. Figures I would end up with the giant snake. Sasuke. Sasuke launched shurikens, with wires attached, at the grass nin. He managed to tie the grass nin against a tree, the wires cutting into her body. He started doing hand seals, Kaden, Ruka no Jutsu, fire release, dragon fire technique. Sasuke blasted a large torrent of fire along the wires and engulfed the grass nin. Sasuke dropped to his knees, breathing hard, finally. Sasuke. Sasuke's head snapped up to see the grass nin walk out of the flames and then turn into mud. A mud clone. Naruto. Naruto was sent flying into another tree. No matter what he did, he couldn't damage the giant snake. He had attempted to send roots at the giant snake, which only led to the snake swerving around the roots. He had attempted using his demon plants, however the snake quickly tore through those. He had even attempted using Hayashi Shuushuku. It didn't work though. At the moment, he had multiple scratches and bruises all over his body, though they were healing, due to Kyuubi. Do something you idiot. Do you have any bright ideas? Concentrate some of my chakra into your bracelet, but make sure to stay in control. Stay in control, why do I have a feeling you're about to screw me over? You really should be more trusting. Shut up. Naruto, however, did as he was told and started concentrating demonic chakra into his moon leaves. He glared at the snake, blood from a head injury seeping into his eyes. The bracelet started to glow a blood red. For the first time in a long time, he let his smile fall. Ah! He launched his arm at the direction of the snake, an explosion of red and purple shot from the bracelet. Stems grew in length, and the leaves grew much larger. The plant engulfed the snake. The snake attempted to fight off the plant, but was unable to fight the plant off. It suddenly howled in pain, and Naruto could hear something that sounded like teeth sinking into flesh. Naruto looked the dark purple plant over and managed to see one of the leaves that hadn't attached itself to the snake. It had a large mouth and razor-sharp teeth. Is it trying to eat the snake? Of course not. What kind of screwed-up plant would try to eat a snake? It's trying to suck its blood out. Kyuubi paused for a moment. Idiot. Get the moon leaves off your wrist. Get them off now. Naruto didn't wait to be told twice. He ripped the leaves off of his wrist and threw them on the ground. More large stems started to grow from the bracelet, as well as large leaves. The leaves attacked the young kitsune, who quickly jumped away. Naruto jumped onto a tree branch. The snake landed on the ground with a thud, the plant still engulfing it, sucking its blood. Kyukutsu Shokubutsu, blood-sucking plant, spoke Kyuubi. It'll suck the blood out of anything that it can get a hold of. The remaining leaves attached themselves to the snake. Something seems so grotesque about all of this. Keep watching. The giant snake suddenly disappeared and the plant curled into a tight ball. The plant started to glow red and purple again. Finally a large stem, much larger than the others, grew from the center. A large rose grew from this stem and the rest of the plant turned into a bluish-green color. Lovely flower. Never thought you'd be one to appreciate a flower. When a plant sucks the blood from its victim to bloom, it seems more appealing. Interesting. By the way, did you bring another moon leaf bracelet with you? Naruto shook his head. I haven't gotten around to making another bracelet. Idiot. I guess it can't be helped. The snake, it disappeared. How? Why? It was a summoned spirit. Someone in this forest has possession of the snake contract. I wonder who it is. Naruto turned. I better get back to the others. Naruto jumped off, placing the same eerie smile on his face. Sasuke, the grass nin, who had a portion of its face torn off, revealing pale skin and a yellow, slitted eye, slammed Sasuke against a tree. She held the Uchiha against the tree using only one hand. Just as quickly, the grass nin sunk her teeth into Sasuke's neck. Ah! Sasuke let out a blood-curdling yell, which could be heard all throughout the forest. The grass nin let go of Sasuke, letting him slump on the tree branch. She smiled before disappearing. The Uchiha will be mine. Sasuke-kun. Sakura jumped onto the branch, and grabbed onto Sasuke. Sakura looked around frantically. Naruto, I need your help. Her answer was complete and total silence. What am I supposed to do? Muttered the pink-haired ninja. She sat there, with Sasuke resting against her lap, until she heard a familiar chakra signature nearby. Naruto. Naruto landed in a clearing. I can feel Sakura's chakra signature up ahead. Stupid girl, she'll get herself killed that way. She should be concealing it. Naruto-kun. Naruto's eyes widened as he suddenly started looking around. Do you hate Konohagakure? Naruto's face became a smile once again, as he stopped looking around. Congratulations, Captain Obvious. What do you want? A fucking medal. The voice seemed to ignore the comment. I've been watching you, Naruto-kun. I saw you in the first exam. Your abilities over plants is amazing. And let me guess, you want me to give you myself. You want my abilities, isn't that right? The voice chuckled. Of course, in return I'll give you revenge against these pathetic fools, the ones who shun you, hate you, treat you like dirt, despise you for just being alive. Naruto seemed to think this over. No thanks. You should reconsider. The village hurt me, much like it hurt you. I should have been the fourth Hokage, but instead they make that fool the fourth. If I had been the Hokage, I would never even dream of using you as the host. I would have beaten the Kyuubi with my own abilities. Naruto chuckled. Don't leave me in the dark. What's so funny? You are, and this village. You should come back to the village, and ask for forgiveness. The voice growled. And why would I do that? You're both so pathetic. You left this village, for the sole purpose of obtaining revenge against it. You blame the fourth because he received the title over you. Naruto started. This village is the same way. They blame me, because they were far too weak to defeat the Kyuubi and therefore lost so many. They consider me a relic of the past, just because I am the vessel for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The fact of the matter is that you two were made for each other. Naruto smiled inwardly when he heard a low growl. I, on the other hand, am better than that, better than these moronic villagers and better than you. When I leave. I won't return to seek vengeance, because I'm above that. Naruto finished. Naruto could hear the voice growl some more, before suddenly stopping. Cuckoo. Naruto, you're such a silly little boy. I will have you, and I will have your little friend Sasuke. Unfortunately, my time is up. Naruto sighed. What a hassle. He heard something. He turned to see none other than his pink-haired teammate, her eyes as large as plates, staring at the blonde. I guess she heard us, he mused as he walked over to her. He heard something else. He turned to see the purple-haired second examiner come out of the trees. She clenched her fist. Damn you, I'll get you, Orochimaru, she muttered before going back into the trees. He turned back to Sakura, who was still looking at him in horror. So you heard, huh? Sakura didn't even move, she didn't even speak. What do you have to say about it? He was kind of enjoying this, the fact that she shouldn't answer him. She was against a tree. He placed his hand next to her head and moved his face close to hers. Here's the quick version. Yondaime, and the rest of these morons, were far too weak to stand up against the nine-tailed fox. He paused for a moment when he noticed that her mouth was wide open, probably from the mention that the fourth was too weak to defeat the fox. He reached over and closed her mouth for her. Don't gawk like that, makes you look like a fish. Anyway, like I was saying, the fourth couldn't defeat the demon, so they decided to sacrifice a small child. They sealed it into that child. And if that wasn't enough, the child had to deal with the fact that everyone in the village hated him for something that he didn't even control. He paused for a moment to look at Sakura. She still looked terrified. 12 years later, that child makes a deal with the third Hokage. If he becomes a Chunin, then he gets to leave the village permanently if he so wishes. So, help me win this exam, and I'll leave forever. Why SSS. Naruto sighed. You do know I can easily kill you right now, right? Sakura paled, but managed a small nod. Then why don't I? Sakura slowly shook her head, indicating that she didn't know. Because I don't want to, Naruto said simply. No reason to kill you. Sakura sighed at this. Whether you believe that I'm Naruto, or the Kyuubi is your own damn business, I really don't give a damn, Naruto muttered. Alright, story time's over. Next time I'll tell you how I received the talk. 1 Hokage, 3 male clan heads, 20 bottles of sake, and 3 hours later, before they finally asked a woman to explain it to me, she did it in like 5 minutes. Are men pathetic or what? Naruto heard laughing in his head. Where's Sasuke? Sakura gestured to a direction, obviously still terrified. Naruto walked over there. Hours later, Sakura was sitting next to Sasuke's prone body. She was thinking about Naruto. He's the demon fox. No wait, he's just the vessel. I don't know. Why didn't they tell us about this? Why did they lie to us? Sakura heard something appear. It was a squirrel, running towards one of her hidden traps. She threw a kunai in front of it, sending it running away. I have to protect Sasuke-kun until Naruto comes back. Useless little girl. Sakura turned towards the voice to see the 3 sound nins. Naruto. Naruto was jumping from tree to tree. The grass nin that Sasuke was fighting must have been this Orochimaru person that the second examiner mentioned about. Sakura said that the grass nin slapped our scroll away when Sasuke had attempted to give it to her. It only makes sense that it would be Orochimaru. What did he want? Naruto was looking around. Their food supplies were low, and he decided to try and find some fruit. He was also hoping to find some moon leaves for a second bracelet. He had no luck. He heard what sounded like an explosion. He turned around to face the direction. Damn it, that sounds like the direction where Sakura and Sasuke are. Naruto launched himself. Team 7's hiding spot. Naruto reached a tree that was close to the clearing. Naruto peered inside the clearing. He saw Team 10, Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji, the sound team, that freak who was talking to the turtle, and Sakura, who now had short hair. The sound girl, Ino, Choji, the green-clad ninja, and the sound girl were all down. Naruto did the necessary hand seals. Let's see how that freak likes this. Dosu was closing in on Sakura, ready to kill the young girl. Suddenly something exploded from the ground and latched right onto his groin. Dosu's eyes widened and he let out a blood-curdling scream, ah! Zaku, Lee, Shikamaru, and Choji all felt sympathy for the sound nin, the latter two experiencing the same pain from Ino almost on a daily basis. Naruto jumped into the clearing right behind Zaku, smirking, as his plant disabled Dosu. Zaku turned toward Naruto and glared. They all suddenly felt something. They turned to see a Hyuga, and a girl with 2 buns, up in the trees. Zaku looked around, but then suddenly felt something behind him. He turned to see Sasuke, glowing purple, with black, flame-like, tattoos all over his body. Sasuke growled, "You're hurt, Sakura. Who did that to you?" Sakura was terrified again. "What kind of group am I in?" Zaku laughed, "It was me." Sasuke appeared behind Zaku. "You're pretty proud of these arms, aren't you?" He grabbed both of Zaku's arms, and put his foot on his back and started pushing. Stop. Crack. Both Zaku's arms broke. Sasuke let Zaku go, letting the boy slump on the ground. He turned around to see Dosu get back up. Sasuke smirked and walked towards the sound nin, when suddenly he felt two pairs of arms wrap around him. "Please don't, please don't." Seeing Sakura's terror-stricken face made Sasuke revert back to normal. Dosu pulled out a heaven scroll. "Let us go, and you can have the scroll." "We already have that scroll," thought Naruto. "Oh well, couldn't hurt to have two." "Put it down, and leave." Dosu turned towards Naruto and growled, "I won't be forgetting you, we'll meet again." He dropped the scroll, grabbed Kin and Zaku, and left. Naruto picked up the scroll. He turned to see Team 10 up again, checking each other for serious injury. Sakura was looking over Sasuke, who seemed to be brooding. And the two nins who appeared recently seemed to be checking out bushy brows. "Lee, you idiot, you need to be careful," scolded to Hyuga. "Sorry Neji, sorry Tenten." Lee started checking his pockets and slightly pulled out an earth scroll. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. An earth scroll. But they wouldn't, worth a shot. Naruto mused as he walked over to Lee's group. "Hey Lee, that earth scroll, it's not the only one you got, is it?" Team Guy turned towards Naruto. "How did you know that?" muttered Lee, before being jabbed by Neji. "What's it to you?" Naruto smiled. "I have 2 heaven scrolls, you have 2 earth scrolls, we trade one, we both leave happy." Neji glared and smirked. "And what if I just defeat you and take both your scrolls?" "You don't seem like the type to waste energy, not without it being necessary," Naruto replied. Neji smirked. "Fine." Naruto and Neji traded a scroll. Lee got up. "How did you know that we had 2 earth scrolls?" Naruto's smile widened. "Simple. That guy," pointing to Neji, "seems an awful lot like that guy," pointing to Sasuke, "and that guy," pointing once again to Sasuke, "would never trust you," pointing to Rock Lee, with his team scroll, unless they had an extra. With that, Naruto walked away. Lee looked confused. Tenten glared at Naruto, and Neji seemed to be smirking. Naruto returned to his team, holding both scrolls. "We're done, let's get to that tower." The next day, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were standing outside of the tower, just in time too, they were almost out of time. All 3 of them walked in. "Finally, just a few more tests and I'll be free. A chance to fight more foes, to test how far I've come." Sakura was the only one not cheerful. "Naruto has a demon in him, and Sasuke has been cursed by that grass nin. What kind of situation am I in?"